In this video, I am going to be talking all about Venus in Leo, which is a really huge transit that is happening this year, and Venus is going to be in this sign for a little bit over 4 months, from June to October. So from June 5th through October 8th of this year. And so the reason why Venus is spinning this long in a sign, normally it would spend about 24 to 25 days in a given sign, but this time around it's even longer because it will go retrograde for a certain amount of time. And I'm going to go through those dates with you. So, Venus is going to enter Leo, as I said, on June 5th. It's going to stay there until it hits 12 degrees and 12 minutes of Leo on June 19th. That is the pre-shadow. That begins the pre-shadow period of Venus retrograde. So whatever themes and whatever lessons and relationship dynamics and anything involving Venus ruled issues, which we're going to be getting into, you may see in a very different way when Venus stations direct. So, that's super important. So for the pre-shadow, it's June 19th through July 21st. Then the actual retrograde, when Venus is moving backwards, is from July 22nd to September 3rd. On July 22nd, it's going to be at 28 minutes, at 28 degrees and 36 minutes of Leo on July 22nd. And then it's going to move all the way back to 12 degrees on September 3rd. From September 4th, which is actually around the time when Jupiter goes retrograde in Taurus. So the post shadow is September 4th through October 7th, when Venus again hits 28 degrees, 36 minutes of Leo. And then Venus, finishes up its stay in Leo on October 8th and moves into Virgo. And so then, we can really finally move on after that point. So you want to see where 12 degrees of the fixed signs around maybe 2 degrees on either side, from 10 to 14 degrees of the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, wherever that is in your natal chart. If you have planets, such as, this can be the luminaries, the sun or moon, or your personal planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, especially those, the other planets, Jupiter and Saturn, but especially your personal planets. If you have planets in those fixed signs around those degrees or points, such as the ascendant, such as your ascendant, your midheaven, your north node or south node, or I just want to throw in Chiron into the mix. If you have those points at around 12 degrees of the fixed signs, then those particular times, June 19th, around that time, and then around September 3rd, are really going to be prevalent and significant for you. If you have planets or points at around 28 to 29, I'd say 26 to 29 degrees of the fixed signs, then around July 22nd and then October 7th, those dates are going to be more prevalent and significant for you. And if you have planets or points in the fire signs at those degrees, at either 12 degrees or 28 degrees, then this retrograde is going to especially be significant for you. And if you have any planets or points between 12 degrees 28, between 12 and 28 degrees of Leo or the fixed signs, then this time period of the Venus retrograde is really going to be profound for you. I actually have 0 Leo in my natal chart, so it's interesting to talk about this. It's a sign that I want to know more about. I feel that I know the least about it, and I really think that when you're studying Leo, you really have to do the deep dive, not the shallow surface level general. Really do the deep dive. What is it really about? Getting to the core and the essence and the heart and the truth of what Leo as the sign is really about. That deep understanding, like what's the true flavor. What are its true qualities. So I just wanted to give you that information because this is super important. Now, Venus actually has an interesting cycle of when it goes retrograde. So every 8 years, it repeats its retrograde in the same sign. So we're talking the summer of 2023. Let's go back 8 years. If we count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that would be the summer of 2015. That was the last time that this happened. And of course, I was a very different person. First of all, my speech was not as good as it is now. I was doing a lot of creative things when I was pretending to, do this thing called the Amenton when I pretended to teach students. I pretended to invite in guests and, do a fun thing that I did. So it was a huge creative time for me. Just a little sort of tidbit about my life is I remember at that time I started getting afraid of bugs that, buzzed and, those kind of things. Of course, I've gotten over that fear now, but I'm still afraid of bees and wasps. You know, so anyway, that's sort of what I remember is maybe I was reevaluating my connection to nature since Venus rules Taurus, it's Mother Earth, it's pleasure, it's so many different things. So, anyway, that's just a little general tidbit. But, Venus actually spent a little bit of time at the very beginning of Virgo in 2015. And then it spent most of its retrograde in Leo, but not this time around. This time it's completely in the sign of Leo. Um, so, yeah. And so Venus retrogrades, things repeat. The themes and events that were going on in your life in regards to the themes of Venus, which I'm going to be getting into, those are probably going to carry over and overlap and repeat, and you may see similar themes as you can track those Venus retrograde times and those cycles in your life. From one Venus retrograde in this sign to 8 years later, how have you grown and how have you evolved to that Venus retrograde in that same sign 8 years from the previous Venus retrograde cycle. Now, getting into the planet, because we're going to be spending a lot of time with this energy that's going to be really, really huge for us. So understanding what Venus is about, it is the planet of love. It is, love, what you love, who you love. It rules your money, your finances, because Venus rules Taurus. It's what you value, what you want to invest in, what kind of How do you want to get your money? How do you want to earn your money? How do you want to spend your money on the things and the objects that you like, that are beautiful to you, that are attractive to you, that you want in your life. And so that's also a key piece of Venus as well. So, what you find pleasurable, joy, Venus is about the finer things in life. It's about really enjoying your life. Um, Again, surrounding yourself with the things and people that you like, such as, clothing, jewelry, all those kind of things, are really associated in food as well, aesthetics, um, all those things, and also music is associated with Venus. Anything that pleases your five senses, art, also is related to Venus because there's great beauty in those areas. What you find beautiful, your sense of self-worth, that you are worthy of these pleasures, you are worthy of living this life and experiencing this joy and having this thing and having this relationship, and that you are worthy of love. And the power of love is going to be super huge during this whole Venus retrograde season. And feeling that love and finding ways to tap into your heart energy, tapping into love, is going to be huge. It's also harmony. It's the planet of peace, because Venus rules Libra, and Libra is a very diplomatic sign. It's a very peacemaking sign. It wants the collaboration. It wants people to come together. Drawing the olive branch. It wants to bring people together. Include people. What's your opinion? We want to get to know each other. We want to communicate. Have a well-balanced, harmonious, kind, easygoing relationship. So, it's very peaceful, where we can find peaceful solutions to problems. We can collaborate, and tap into the more Libra qualities, balance, justice, fairness, harmony, all those Libra qualities here. So that's just what Venus is. Now, delving into the actual transit in general of Venus and Leo, Venus and Leo is very passionate and love. It's very bold. It wants something big. It doesn't want to play small. It wants also passion, excitement, juice, and love. Play. Having games with your partner, doing activities with your partner or somebody. It's that sort of you're shouting on the rooftops, or Venus and Leo, something that I think would be very associated with it is in The Sound of Music, when Julie Andrews was singing "The Hills Are Alive." Really, Leo is a sign about feeling the inspiration to do something that comes to you in the moment. It's about, I'm feeling this feeling, I'm feeling this joy, this passion, this excitement, and I want to express this. It's that kind of energy that sort of singing "The Hills Are Alive" with The Sound of Music is very musical. Filling you, that feeling of feeling full of joy, and also that song, that Do Re Mi song from A Sound of Music. If you look into those two songs, that's very Venus in Leo, or just Leo in general. that's something that uplifts you and fills your soul. And it's not a time to sort of keep that energy in, but to let that out, to express that freely, and to, um, you know, invite people to you, or just be your authentic self. Express yourself because of that, that energy, that positive, abundant, enthusiastic energy coming from within you. So it's really associated with play. Also, so, it wants to experience love with childlike curiosity and a childlike wonder. Um, and it's really an invitation to ask you these deep questions, because we're going to be reviewing this, we're going to be reevaluating Venus and Leo. Is, do you feel like in this relationship that you can shine, that you can freely express yourself? That you feel worthy of this love, that you feel like, that your partner is loyal to you, that you feel adored. Um, because adoration's another part of this. And so, it's about shining your light very bright, and, without fear or staying timid, but, boldly, loudly, because think of the sun and how it shines down on the earth. It's not, shying away. It's expressing itself. It's shining its light. It is giving light to the plants and everything. And it's saying, look at me. It's taking up the skies. It's providing its warmth. And it's unafraid to shine and be itself, and it takes up as much space as it wants to, and really lets its hair down and opens itself up entirely, in terms of its expression. Like, it's really about opening yourself up, um, and being totally, yourself without being inhibited. So, it deals with that kind of energy. And so it's also loving from the heart, because it's very generous. It's a deep warmth, loyal, loving heart connection, with Venus and Leo, because it rules the heart chakra. So anything you can do to open that up, singing, music, painting, dancing, whatever it is that really makes your heart sing. So true love, that you truly want to give, that you truly love this person, you want to spend time with them, you truly want to be there for them, you're expressing your love, um, proudly and loudly and truly. Dramatic is another quality with Venus and Leo. Once, I can relate itself to drama, both, theatrical stuff, or on the downside, drama. And so, are you allowed to express yourself creatively? That's another question with this. Creative expression. Anything that you do that you view as creative, doesn't have to be just music or art or those types of things. It can be whatever you view as creative, and really letting that shine, and really not being afraid to do what makes you feel happy, uplifted, what you're passionate about, what you love, and what you find beautiful and pleasurable. So it's a wonderful time to, do that, and maybe the Venus retrograde will rekindle and bring back an old love, passion, creative interest, hobby that you did, that you stop doing, but then you're feeling that there's sort of an opening to that. You feel inspired to do it again. So It deals with your creative expression. This is Leo energy. Um, and so, loyalties also too. I was discussing that earlier. Um, Leo's ruled by the lion, so it's about pride. Who do you feel proud of? Do you feel proud of your relationship? Do you feel proud of what you love to do, or don't you? Um, and so, are people respecting you? Um, and is your pride healthy also? So the love with Venus and Leo is bold and it's grand. Um, and so, what are we proud of? It's super romantic also. Very romantic energy, very romantic transit. Also, um, joy and pleasure are things. Doing anything that, again, brings you joy. Getting out, having a party, doing whatever it is. Singing, dancing, all those types of things. Now, Venus also rules sort of possessions and objects, so it can be really materialistic. Has an eye for beauty, has an eye for quality, has an eye for the finest things, and it really wants to, spend good money. And this is a time when you may feel like you want to invest into those really high quality objects. You may find that you may be more attracted to beauty products or antiques, jewelry, all those types of things. So really materialistic. Um, yeah. So especially, I think of crowns and jewels with Leo. Anything that sort of makes you feel that real feeling. Um, do you feel like the king or queen in your relationships? That's another huge question because Venus and Leo sort of wants to be treated in a way like a king or queen. Um, and sort of, it's also really confident. It also seeks confidence in the partner. It's also very confident and very courageous when it comes to its love making and its in love. You may feel more confidence, good opportunity to sort of boost up your confidence and the courage to interact with somebody, to become more social, to express yourself creatively. um, Downsides could be becoming very egoic, sort of selfish in the negative sense, self-righteous qualities, always seeking attention from your ego as opposed to your heart, and not letting, it's important not to let your ego take control where you, um, really want all of, those Leo things, and you're really willing to do anything to get it, but that can be, very, um, destructive, and that's sort of, that's a shadow side of this. So, your ego, how you're using it, that you are not against other people, and that we're all here as one, etc. Um, so, it's important to make sure that our ego is in check and that we don't fall into becoming too vain. Um, and then the other downside is just overindulging. I was reading about the sort of upsides of Venus and Leo and the downsides of Venus and Leo. And they said on something that I was reading about this transit, it was talking about overindulging in those pleasures where, too much can be too much, especially with, Venus retrograde and, or Venus in Leo, just overdoing it, spending too much money, just overindulging, gluttony, all those kind of things like that. So, yeah, it's important in making sure that we don't overindulge and that we're not, so happy, so abundant. We want to be those things, but, we don't want to overdo it and indulge. That's just the downside of this. So now we're going to move on to Venus retrograde. I really want to delve into this because I actually started my YouTube channel. I started doing astrology forecasts when Venus was in its retrograde season. And I spoke a little bit about this, but I really want to delve into it more so. So, as I said, it spends about 8 years. It travels back to that sign that it transited through 8 years later. Spends about 42 days retrograde in that sign, a little bit over a month in the sign. Venus goes retrograde every 18 months. Now, the signs Venus goes retrograde in: Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, and Scorpio, and Capricorn. Those are the signs, but they change. They change as sort of Venus goes, back and back and back, and it's, eventually Venus is going to start going retrograde in Cancer. Many, many years later. So, it goes retrograde every 18 months, around the time when the lunar nodes, the South Node and North Node, change signs. That's what I found. So when the North Node entered Taurus and the South Node entered Scorpio, in January of 2022, when Venus was retrograde in Capricorn, Venus was retrograde. But it can happen after Venus goes retrograde, before Venus goes retrograde. This time the nodes are changing into Aries and Libra just days before Venus goes retrograde. But I think it's usually within that Venus retrograde season, either during the retrograde, the pre-shadow, or post-shadow periods where the lunar nodes will change signs during that amount of time. So, during the actual retrograde, feeling love maybe, could it be more harder to come by? Could that love and that heart energy, that, enthusiasm, that passion, that creative energy of, knowing what you love and value in terms of pleasure, could that be more fizzled out and harder to determine and pinpoint inside of you? And could that be sort of less so, that feeling, harder to feel that love, hard, maybe more difficult. It may be more difficult to receive that love, and to give it back, to feel that love. Also, challenges and difficulties within relationship, be it, disagreement or conflict, or, some other type of issue going on, where, there's a problem and there's an issue going on in relationships, going on in a relationship. There's a sort of dynamic happening um, and it becomes revealed to you, and you see it more clearly during when Venus is retrograde, and you're reviewing, you're reevaluating your love and your relationships. Um, so those issues, where you become more attuned to not feeling, um, loved or adored, or that feeling of joy and pleasure. All those things, could become more revealed to you, and you may be more attuned to those things at the time that Venus is retrograde. So it's also great for resolving, those relationships, where we can find solutions, where we can talk it out, where we can make compromises, and collaborate with the partner. And I'm having this issue, this is going on in this relationship between us, and here's how we can fix it, and let's talk about this. Let's not hide the issues under the rug and keep them quiet. Let's be honest and be transparent about these issues, and speak our truth, and speak from our heart, Leo energy, and speak from our mind, if we're thinking about on this relationship, and how it feels on a soul level. Is it serving you? Is it not serving you? um, and if it is, great. But if it's not, this would be a really favorable time to talk about those issues with your partner, or somebody else that you are in relationship with, and find those solutions, and talk about those solutions where you're talking, you can see, hear the truth, you're listening to each other. And yeah, also Venus retrograde, people from your past can probably come back into your life. This can be ex-lovers, this can be friends, this can be, old partners. These kind of things happen from karmic relationships that may need to be reevaluated or reviewed. So if that does happen, then just be open to it, and welcome that in, and allow that in, because maybe it's meant to happen. Um, and so yeah. So on the other hand, we're more, when planets are retrograde, we're sort of more, we're turned within. We're more introverted. We're going inside ourselves. It's going within. We're more sort of, it's going unconscious. It's going to the deeper, more psychological, spiritual, soul based level. What's going on inside of us? How do we feel inside of us? It's an extremely reflective time. Um, and so we may actually be more in alignment with our values. We may actually have a better sense of what we value in our lives, what we want, what kind of relationship we want, what we find pleasure in, what we find joy in. Or we may be more focused on those issues when Venus goes retrograde, or we may not have an idea as to what our values are, because it's sort of an unclear energy when Venus is retrograde. And yeah, so we may think we want one thing, we want to buy this thing, we want this relationship, when really, when we drop into our truth, into our authenticity, we want something completely different. Something that's not right for us, or something maybe better for us later on. And I'll get into some of the sort of protocols for this a little bit later on here. But it's a good time to discern who and what is and isn't right for you. And if it isn't right, then it's time to fix that relationship, maybe leave that relationship, try to make a change in that relationship, solve something, solve an issue, really connect to your truth in that way. Another aspect of Venus retrograde is relationships started may take longer to, get going, and there may be more delays and maybe slower. Who knows? But I'm not saying to not initiate new relationships during this time. An astrologer that I was listening to was describing Venus retrograde season as asking the big question: do I love this person, place, or thing? So where it can also bring up truth, internal truth about what you love and what you value. So so it is about where we're learning, where we're evolving, where we're on a sort of correction, correcting our path, where it's now time to come face to face with all these themes and lessons, and reevaluate and get serious about these issues, to then move on when Venus is direct and just doing its normal thing when it's in the sign for 24 to 25 days at a time. This is sort of a turning point, a checkpoint, a critical point, when Venus sort of slows down, stations, goes retrograde, and we're asked to look at the themes of Venus, and more of the Venus ruled themes are more available to us because Venus is closer to the Earth, its energy is heightened, and we want that energy more. So another aspect of this is any karmic love relationship. Past relationships that you've had in the past, it could come back again. So and there may be some shadow or psychological issues. I was reading about Venus retrograde, and it was talking about relationships really getting into more. You find that you delve into more of the shadow and psychological material with relationships. So now some astrologers, and what they say about Venus retrograde, they say, oh, don't buy any big purchase items, don't invest in this that costs a lot of money, don't change your appearance, don't change your hair color, all those kind of things, where or maybe not putting down starting a new business, or it may not be the best time to agree to get married, or to buy a house. However, I don't believe in just having a planetary influence inconvenience your life. Live the life that you want to live, and live the life to your fullest. Do what you want to do in your own life. And don't let the astrology keep you back from that. So I just think it's irresponsible, and I just think it really buys into a pop culture narrative about Venus retrograde, and I just don't buy astrologers who say don't do this, don't do that, because that's dictatorial, that's disempowering, that is not empowering. It is a time to review and reflect on the issues ruled by Venus. But when you're doing those Venus related things, buying that big purchase items, starting that new relationship, by, going, uh, you know, investing, getting married. Just do it with, coming at it from a place of wisdom, awareness, and more, reflection. Maybe think about more, and this is truly right for me. Maybe sit on it, maybe take more time to reflect on this before just acting on it, before just impulsively doing it. Or, um, just do it, maybe, I don't want to say proceed more caution, but with more, awareness and, you know, just coming from a place of truth where I'm doing this deliberately. I have a point to what I'm doing. I mean this. I want to pursue this. I feel inspired to do this. I want to do it. Um, you know, it is on purpose. It is so meaningful to me. I know that this is, going to work out like really from a grounded place where you thought it out, really well. It's practical. It makes sense. It's it works for you. Um, and it's something that you truly want to do. And you may, when Venus goes direct, you may reevaluate what you have done, or change your mind on a given issue, or you may feel differently about it. But why, well, then that may be how you feel, and that may happen, just like it can happen any other time, no matter what Venus is doing. But astrologers have said that you may feel differently about the things that you bought, or the relationships that you've started when Venus goes direct. And that may happen. You may feel those kinds of ways, about it, but don't limit yourself and don't put your life on hold just because of Venus going in retrograde. So I really, it's important to, I just sort of have a higher view, a detached place, taking it with a grain of salt when astrologers talk protocols. And Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, Mars retrograde, those kind of planetary protocols of what to do and what not to do. Now, the other, uh, little note is another huge topic is self-love. Working on that spiritual side of yourself. Numerology is sort of cousin, I guess you could say, to astrology. Says that in 2023 we're in a 7 year, and 7 is about spirituality. It's about going inside yourself and finding the answers within yourself. And it's about, working on, your spiritual side, according to the numerologist Glennis McCants, who talks all about 7 energy. So self-love, accepting yourself as you are, loving yourself as you are, working on, your sense of self-worth and self-respect. I would also add, doing anything spiritual where you can understand yourself at a deeper level, fall in love with yourself, really work on yourself on the spiritual side, self-care, self-help. Doing things where you're taking care of yourself, where you're feeding your soul, doing the things that feed your soul, and that feed your heart. And allowing yourself to engage in those things and do those things, and be with this person, this partner, and again, do what brings you joy. So self-love, because self-love, when you love yourself, you can more easily, much easier and truly, from that true place, loving others. And yeah, So, you know, just a sort of thought with this is just an activity that I was thinking about is, Venus ruling possessions, objects, um, and it could be a time for rummage sales, garage sales, bringing by sales where you're bringing an object, you're, selling it, or you're taking an object back, old objects that can be repurposed objects. Old objects, sort of vintage objects that that you can find. Oh, there's a use for this, or oh, there's a beauty to this thing that may be unusual, that may be older. Um, yeah, so those, because there's all kinds of things when you go to a garage sale. For those who've been to garage sales, you go there, you find all these objects that people give away that, they probably don't need. Goodwill, when you donate objects to, um, you know, Goodwill that you don't need, and there's sort of um, an assortment of objects, things that you no longer want. And yeah, just clearing out what you no longer want, no longer need in your life. The objects around your house, the beauty, the treasures around your house, things that you have in your environment that are just not working for you anymore, that just don't match your tastes or your style or your, sense of aesthetic, or, they're just not meant for you anymore. It's a good time to give those away, and possibly in exchange for other things. Now, with all this said, as if this was not enough, delving into the aspects, this is a longer video. Um, you know, I'm aware of that. And, it's so funny because I have the intention of making these videos kind of like expressing my points because I don't want to overdo it. But I just have a lot to say with this. So, June 5th, Venus is going to enter Leo on June 5th. It is going to immediately oppose Pluto in Aquarius. Now, it's so interesting because Pluto is going to move into Capricorn on that same day. So it's just, moving back. And then you may find that issues such as jealousy or possessiveness in relationships may come up. But in general, relationships may feel more intense. Darker, where you're really seeing the depth in those relationships, the deeper issues, the deeper themes and feelings that you have and, somebody else has in that relationship. And it's time to be honest about that and express that. Power dynamics, more attunement toward power dynamics and who has a lot of power versus who has less power, and sort of working at those power dynamics with that other person in that relationship may be super huge, a great benefit to you. So, because Pluto is power, it has a lot of power, wants to take, holds a lot of power. So there's so many ways that it could show up. Maybe someone is more controlling in the relationships or taking on more responsibility, or, whatever it is. You may, at the very beginning of Venus's ingress into Leo, those issues may come up, and may be good to face those things and try to find a solution to those issues. And whatever you're feeling based off of those issues, let those intense emotions run through you. Feel those feelings, expressing them responsibly, finding a way to express how it is you're feeling with whatever is going on, if these issues are coming up in your relationships or just in general. This can be just whatever intense feelings that you may be feeling about your relationships, letting those feelings be present within you to be healed, looked at, transformed, and, you know, uh, if I didn't say it before, healed. Um, Venus opposite Pluto is a more difficult aspect. And so, yeah. So then we get into the actual retrograde season aspects. That aspect just happens on that one day, that June 5th date. But we actually have a lineup of several aspects happening. The first of which is Venus squaring Jupiter in Taurus. I have another video about Jupiter in Taurus. Jupiter has been in Taurus since May 16th. It's going to be there till May next year. And so Jupiter in Taurus, when we do what matters to us, do what we value, when we're establishing stability and security, when we're more present, when we're engaging with our five senses, we can find more growth, expansion, abundance, opportunity. So, now, the dates for Venus squaring Jupiter is June 11th, August 21st, and September 17th. Those are the three dates. That first date is that right before that pre-shadow. That second date is August 21st, when Venus is actually retrograde in Leo. And then September 17th is that post-shadow. So these are the two benefics. Venus and Jupiter coming together, and actually in 2015, when Venus was retrograde in Leo, Venus and Jupiter came together in a conjunction. I think it was at the very beginning of August, that Venus was retrograde. It met up with Jupiter at late degree Leo just before it moved into Virgo. I think on August 11th of that year, it moved into Virgo, which is, of course, when I had my Jupiter return, because I have my Jupiter in Virgo. So just before Jupiter moved into Virgo that year, Venus and Jupiter met in the sky, and it was it was just so much positivity and so much fun. But the themes with Venus squaring Jupiter is a square, and squares are difficult aspects. They represent tension. There's conflict. The two planets sort of they're fighting one another. Like when you're in a conversation and you are fighting another person. There's tension. You sort of you're butting heads. But Venus and Jupiter are, benefics and they're positive, planets. So even with that square, it can be quite good. So, there's just a fun energy, doing things that are fun, getting out, going to a restaurant, meeting new people, going to an art gallery, going, to see a movie, or just anything that brings you joy. And makes you feel alive. Anything that's fun, because there's a sense of, wanting, because there's this abundant sense. It's a good time to look at, all of the abundance that you have in your life and celebrate it, as you may be feeling very abundant. During this time, you may want to do things to celebrate that joy, that jovial feeling that you feel, which is a feeling of being blessed. There's an optimistic energy that comes with this transit, since Jupiter is faith and it is optimism. So you may be feeling more optimistic about the future. potentials for what's going to be happening in your life, something that you want to do. You may be feel really determined. You can go on this particular path, and you may feel good about it. You may feel just that confidence and that motivation, that desire to go on that particular path and do that because of how optimistic you feel. More openness to abundance and receiving and possibilities, openness to new experiences, learning new things, meeting new people, travel, anything that expands your mind, learning, just doing something fun, especially with other people, since it's Venus and Venus rules relationships. But the downside is overdoing it, indulging at this, sort of a lack of, moderation, where you're feeling super gung ho, and you're, again, comes back to overindulging, and again, cutting back, moderations and just not overdoing it. This is sort of downside where that square can bring out that downside of Jupiter, which makes things bigger, but the downside is just overdoing it, and sort of having all these ideas but not grounding them in reality. It's not practical, it's not logical. We're losing our footing, and so we're you know all of that kind of thing. So but on the positive side, there's great opportunities for growth. So and it's also great for anything involving self-improvement, looking at your philosophy, looking at that. So I hope that wasn't sort of too much put into that thing. But Venus, I think probably the most significant set of aspects that are occurring during this Venus retrograde season is a square between Venus and Uranus. Now, that square is going to be happening on July 2nd, August 9th, and September 29th. Those are the dates for that square, because remember, Venus is going to go forward, retrograde, go forward again. So, there may be a need to change things up. Change if something in your relationships is stagnant or is sort of dormant and stale, and you may need some excitement, you may need some fun, some change. It's a great time to stir that up. And you may just feel this burning sense that you may need stimulation and freedom, and something new. You want that adventure. You want to do something. You want to go out, take a trip, or go do something all of a sudden that is different for a change. It's something fresh and new. There's a strong need for that can come around this time, and freedom. You may feel like you need personal freedom and to draw healthy boundaries in your relationships. So this can also be a great energy, or not the best, I don't know, because it's a square. But you may feel the need to take a risk. This is an energy of taking a risk, of feeling the need to take a risk, and doing something different. And Uranus is about truth. It is about radical truth. All of a sudden, truth that comes out of the blue where you didn't expect it, but here it is. Here is for you to look at it, and it's undeniable truth. And that square, Uranus may bring out that truth that, oh wow, I'm waking up, or I suddenly have this revelation that this relationship does not work for me, that this does not work for me anymore, or this dynamic that I am portraying and this approach that I have in this relationship does not serve me anymore. And it's not bringing me that sense of self-worth, that joy, that fulfillment, that sense of meaning in my relationships. And I'm not feeling adored. I'm not feeling like, I can shine and express myself. So, um, you know, yeah, those squares, during this time may, when you try to deny it or squash down the truth that you may find, or somebody else revealed it to you, or that is coming into your conscious awareness, you try to deny that, then I don't know about that. It's time to face the truth and come to terms with, um, what just isn't working for you anymore. What's bringing, maybe it's causing you pain, causing you hindrance, causing you struggles or setbacks, or you feel victimhood, you feel limited in your relationship, you feel possibly unloved. Um, yeah, it just isn't, working for you anymore, than that may become important. Or this, well, I didn't realize this positive thing about this relationship, or, um, this relationship I started, now I think I want to get back to that because I suddenly want this sense of adventure to start a new relationship or go back to an old relationship that worked, or, actually go back to this person, and, review this and meet this person from the past that I met before, and we got along great. We had this great time. We bonded, we connected, etc. That may come up. I mean, there's a variety of things. You know, sort of set of circumstances. Um, Getting to know your partner, um, and just doing doing exciting things with them. This can be just a conversation. You're getting to know them. You're getting to know what they like, what they value, what they're interested in talking, learning together, um, you know, going someplace and getting to know them, and seeing different sides to them, or, learning new things about them that you didn't know before. So it's a great time for connection and opening up and yeah. So learning new things about your partner or that person that you didn't know before, or you are telling them things that 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 that, that they didn't know before about you, or just being more open about your feelings, about your truth, what's on your mind. I know that in August, the Sun and Venus are going to form a conjunction. Um, I think I might include that um, around the time of that new moon in the middle of August in Leo. Um, but yeah, the Sun conjunct Venus can bring more awareness um, of the Venus retrograde season, and what it's about, the themes of it, the lessons of it, and what needs to change, uh, what and your sense of self worth, and what you truly value. So that is the whole extended video on this Venus retrograde in Leo. Thank you for tuning in. And I wish you wonderful Venus retrograde season and have a great day.